Hey there, everybody. Matt Carter here.
And Jessica Carter.
And what we've got here is our reaction to part 1 of the Bachelor finale. Pilot Pete's season is going in for the landing. I don't know if this is going to be a smooth landing, I'll tell you that much.
So far, it certainly isn't.
It feels almost like, I don't know. It feels like Peter's mom, Barb, is like doing the air traffic and she's like directing him all sorts of different directions. I have never been out on a parent of a Bachelor contestant quite like I have been out on Barb over the past 2 hours.
Yeah, watching her get upset with Madison for giving an ultimatum and then giving Peter an ultimatum being like, oh, we'll accept Hannah and nobody else was kind of a little bit much.
I could go for 30 minutes just on Barb alone, and I might do that, so buckle up, everyone. We've got a lot to say. Before we dive in, though, if you do like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I'm pretty sure Barb will not be doing that after this video. Just throwing that out there. Okay, Barb. I have a lot of things to say here.
Oh, God.
Number 1, we have waited all season for you to be crying and saying, bring her home to us. Little did we know that this was some sort of like, I'm not saying this was manipulative, but it felt manipulative. It felt like this was all, bring home Hannah Ann because she's the one you're not the Bachelor, Barb. You don't get to make these decisions. This is not your season. Beyond all of that, you were like saying that Hannah Ann is a gift from God, an angel who has descended down with the halo and the wings and the harp and all this other stuff. And Madison is actually the one talking about religion. And you are being like, no, this one is not right for you, Peter. And you say it as though you know, and you have spoken to Madison for like 10 minutes. How dare Madison have a slightly differing opinion from you or Peter? I will shut up now for a moment to catch my breath.
Okay, so
I might need to be sedated.
I agree. Barb, out of line. A little out of
a lot out of line.
A lot out of line.
But there are no lines with Barb.
However, it wasn't only Barb. We also had Madison explaining herself to Peter's dad about her religion and how she wants to have someone else who's religious, and Peter's dad being like, thank you. Which was it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the whole Kelsey, I love you, Peter. Peter, thank you. It wasn't great. And then we've got also Peter's brother who just called it out like it is. Good on the brother. The brother handled it, I think, the best. He really sat down with him and was like, listen, your lifestyles are very different. Does she know that you party every weekend? Well, yeah, that's a thing. Okay, well, what about the religious thing? You're spiritual, but you are not religious. Oh, yeah, there's that. Oh, what about waiting for marriage to be able to be with Madison? Your lifestyle when it comes to being intimate is way different. Yeah, there's that. Peter's brother is my hero in this episode because he really called out all the most important things that Peter really should have listened to or taken in a little more. But I think Barb's reaction just overshadowed that. It felt like Peter just needed to sit down with his brother.
Could Chris Harrison go back in time and arrive to this scene and be like, Barb, new twist to the season. There is no rose for you, and it's creating a rose ceremony to eliminate Barb midway through all this. Peter's brother, I'm all in on Peter's brother. Can we also go back in time? I don't know how old he is. Can we make Peter's brother the Bachelor? Because I feel like he's more equipped with this.
I think in general, it's just if you've got a kid and you see your kid making a choice where you can see big, huge roadblocks to them, because everybody wants their kids to be happy and in love and having this wonderful, effortless love for their lives. Nobody wants to see their kids starting off a relationship where they have hurdle after hurdle and it's hard and it's difficult. Nobody wants that for their kids. So I can understand why all three of them, Peter's brother, mother, father, are all like, listen, with what's going on with Madison, she seems like a really nice girl, and it's awesome that she stands for what she stands for, but you stand for all this other stuff that is the complete opposite. And that's why later in the episode, when Madison broke up with him, I was like, good for you, Madison. Like, I get that you guys love each other, but you made the right choice by doing this, because you know where you stand in your heart. You know who you are. It's something you don't want to compromise in yourself. And it's nice to see somebody, especially someone who is young at her age, to actually know who they are. Because I certainly didn't know confidently myself the way that Madison knows herself when I was 23. I was still figuring it out. But she knows the things that are the deal breakers for her, and that even though it obviously broke her apart to break this off, she was true to herself, and that was cool. You don't see that on the show.
I give Madison all the props in the world for hitting back at Barb in the midst of I'm not done with Barb yet. In the midst of everything that's going on here. She was not having it with Barb and some of the nonsense that Barb was throwing at her there. She was just like, no, I love Madison standing up to Peter's mother. That can be a very intimidating position.
Absolutely. First meeting like that? Well, I mean, they've met before, but you know what I mean.
Context,
it's that context.
Well, let me also just throw this out, and I'm offering my services to future leads. If you need an unbiased pretend family member, I can be your cousin. I can be your brother. I can be like your third cousin once removed or something who comes in and be like, this is the enforcer. I can be your enforcer and root to because here's the thing. If I was there with Hannah Ann, which, by the way, they were way too chummy all over each other in the midst of all of this sort of stuff that was going on.
But we have seen just with the conversation that Peter had with his brother, it tells me that Peter is very open with his family about himself, about his intimacy, about his lifestyle. They really know their son, and Peter's brother really knows his brother. I mean, that type of sort of, being on the couch together and touching and whatever is probably something that has happened before.
It's not the weirdest thing that happened in this episode. The weirdest thing is sitting there listening to Peter have a conversation with his parents, and then also Madison having to have a conversation with his parents about fantasy suites. I have not wanted to change the channel faster on The Bachelor than I did for those moments, but
I think the weirdest thing about this episode is that if he is with Madison, the two of them sitting there and watching this episode, or his family watching, or her family watching, Peter's family ripping their daughter down. This was just, if he is with Madison, I can imagine how awkward it is for both families and everybody involved.
Here's what you do. They're in Australia, not that far from New Zealand, where Lord of the Rings filmed. You bring that tape to Mount Doom and you throw it in the fire and you never speak of it again.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, this is why they need to bring me here to be the enforcer, because then I can ask this question. Is it too perfect with Hannah Ann? Like, why is nobody asking this? That, they've had no fights, no conflicts whatsoever. Everything seems hunky-dory, and they don't need to be constant drama. We've talked about this before. But I think this is why there's a pushback to Hannah Ann online. Because I don't have a problem with Hannah Ann, but it seems like a lot of people do.
Yeah, a lot of people do, and she, legitimately hasn't done anything to really merit what's going on here with this pushback on her. I understand that she's probably just playing it really safe, where she doesn't want to rock the boat. She's been on an extremely dramatic season with a lot of women that have caused a lot of problems. So she probably was just thinking, you know what? I actually like this guy. I don't want to be a part of the pack of everybody who's causing him some grief. I'm going to swallow some of this pain and some of the things that I'm feeling and just get through the process so we can get on the other side of this. And I mean, it got her this far, but clearly from just the way that he seems to be playing this out, he doesn't want the good, easy path. He wants whoever's the most difficult on him.
Peter does want the challenge, and I think we've certainly seen enough evidence of that. And with Hannah Ann, there's not much of a challenge. That might just be their personalities. I know the pushback to her is that, is she rehearsed? Is she genuine? I don't know her, so I don't know the answer to any of that, but I
just feel like she's guarded. In some ways. And again, with that drama that's been going on this season, if I was on this season, I'd probably be playing it like that too. That there's just like, okay, well, there's so much stuff going on. I don't want to be those girls. I want to stand out, and I want to maybe be the person that he can lean on.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with Hannah Ann. I mean, I would not be Barb sitting there and saying, bring her home to us and not the other person, just her because she's the angel. I would not go that far.
I think the real issue of what happened, of why Barb and the family all got kind of up in arms about Madison, is just because Peter revealed that ultimatum before they really had a chance to get to know her, talk to her, whatever. So they already straight up said, okay, that's a red flag. Like, she can't really be telling you what to do when you're in the middle of this process. And he even called Madison out on that, where Madison was like, well, you didn't take my feelings into consideration. Okay, Madison, well, you're not really taking his feelings into consideration. He's going through this process. He is in other relationships. And it was nice to see him actually just say that to her and say, I am dealing with other people as well. Like, I can't just have this happen. And the timing of when she told him was something that was a red flag for the parents and was something that bothered Peter. And he said that tonight too. You know, you left this till the last minute.
Here's what I want to know. Did Peter's mom wreck this situation with everything that happened? I mean, not just her mom, the entire family really. But like, did this cause Madison to want to leave more so than she already was thinking about it? Because it seemed like there were times where she was sort of getting back into it, but it was after that conversation with the family she started to realize, oh, you know, this really isn't for me. By the way, why do we need to have a party bro as the Bachelor anyway? I thought the idea was you were supposed to have someone who was kind of ready to not be the party bro anymore.
Well, maybe that is the case. Maybe he's a party bro because he's single and now he's ready to stop. He wants to have a relationship. Everybody's got to get there at some point.
Can we talk about the flies?
I know, right? I was just like, every single date is just completely covered in bugs. Like, they are the champions of each of these dates.
The bugs are getting the final rose at the end of this season.
It's crazy.
I love Australia. There are a lot of places in Australia I would love to see. The cities, the coast. I would even think it would be cool to go to Alice Springs or the Outback or any of that. It is not a good location for the final rose ceremony in the finale of The Bachelor, where you are like, here is the last important conversation between these two contestants they're going to have on this super romantic show. You're putting them effectively in the middle of nowhere in Australia, in the heat. It looked hot, and there are a lot of flies everywhere.
Yeah, you've got Peter and Madison breaking up and trying to hug and still doing this through the whole thing. I was like, oh my goodness, this was really, I don't know who scouted that location, but put them indoors. What is happening? And then Hannah Ann is brought to basically the same type of location and the same thing is happening.
I am very pro the kangaroos, however. The kangaroos can get all the roses. I love them. Maybe that justifies this. Probably not, because it still looks kind of miserable and not a great place to do the final episode of The Bachelor.
Yeah, no. The kangaroos, they were the champions.
Yeah, they were the champions more so than anything else. The entirety of this episode, it felt weird. It felt awkward. There's this whole tone in the air of, oh, you won't believe what's happening next. And because of that, you know, we will talk more about this in the finale preview, but it is so painfully obvious that there's so much more drama to come. I'm just sitting there in this entire Peter, Hannah Ann date being like, well, why why am I really supposed to care? Because I know in the end this isn't going to matter. And I'm not being mean to Hannah Ann. She might end up with Peter, but it's just sort of like, whatever happens here, it's not going to have that much bearing on the end of the season.
I just think that the pushback from Peter's family on Madison is just gonna drive him into her arms. I think that Hannah Ann got screwed over by being sort of this beacon of light that everybody loves. He's a party guy, and I hate to generalize, but I mean, he's always seemed like he wants the chase, he wants the difficult person, and nobody wants who their parents want for you. It's always the one that they don't want for you is the one that you're like, oh, you don't want me to have Madison? Well, now she's become extra interesting to me.
I will tell you my favorite meme that I saw from social media tonight. It was of Michael Scott basically saying, well, I'm just going to date her even harder then. And that is
true.
Yeah, that is exactly what Peter seems to be doing here. There's a lot of other stuff I obviously want to talk about, but we got to save some stuff for the preview because that's where we can really unspool all the speculation.
Yeah, I think we do before we have to wrap up this video, though. Talk about that Hannah Ann date. I know that there are a lot of people out there that are giving her a really hard time, but this date was painful. It was so rough to watch her trying to sort of get all dressed up and be excited and try to be excited. She could tell that even her own first date out in the outback was so like miserable, and she could tell something was wrong, and she just had no chance. As soon as Madison left, she was just done for. That there's no bouncing back from that. He's gonna have like a day to get over getting dumped, and he has to go on another date. She just had no chance, and that really stinks. And then he's coming to her room, and again she's like, okay, well, I got a second chance here. Let's dress up and put up candles. And it's the same thing. He just comes in and he's all melancholy and kind of more, and she's just like, come on, give me something. Like, I give you everything, you're giving me nothing.
I blame producers in part, only because I'm guessing they don't want him telling Hannah and, well, by the way, Madison's already gone, it's just the two of us now. Because then it's sort of like, okay, well then what's the point of all this? We could just go to the final rose ceremony if you don't have any more decisions to be made. That part of it makes it awkward.
Yep.
I think Peter obviously wasn't expecting Madison to leave when it happened. I'm not the biggest Hannah Ann fan, but I do sympathize with her throughout a lot of this. It is like you spelled out. She has a lot of expectations as to how things are going to go, and it is nice to finally see her open up a little bit and be like, okay, this isn't okay. This isn't what I want. I'm going to speak my mind. I mean, we'll have to see where this all ends up going, but I did feel for her a little bit in that moment.
Going into the finale, I'm just starting to feel kind of weird about both of these women, and that sucks. I'm feeling weird because it feels like Madison and Peter are not a very good match, unless in the past few months he's completely changed his entire life around, and changing yourself for someone else is not great. Compromising some stuff, of course, there's always compromise in relationships, but this feels like I don't know, it just feels like there's too much to get over. That's why when Madison made that decision, I was like, good job, that is the right thing to do. But then I feel terrible for Hannah Ann, because then it's like, okay, so is she just being chose because she's all that's left? And that stinks, because she has been there for him, and I know everybody doesn't love her, but she hasn't done anything wrong. So I don't know. She
did steal that champagne earlier. I'm kidding.
Oh my God.
But no.
You're being voted out of the YouTube video.
Hey. Kind of happened. Not really. But no, Ann's fine. I don't have a problem with her. I feel for her in this situation. I hope Peter doesn't choose her just to choose her. If he does, it's probably not going to work out. That's just how these things tend to go.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, she's going to look back at this now, tonight, everybody watching this, and I'm sure then if he's with her, then she's just sitting there being like, well, great. So I'm just the consolation prize. And I think that she could look back at this and feel that, seeing that.
The real truth here, Nobody is going to be happy watching this episode who was actually involved in it. Other than maybe Peter's brother. You can give yourself a pat on the back. You did a job well done.
Yep, you came out like a boss.
Head to paradise if you're old enough. I still know how old you are. But anyway, what did you guys think about The Bachelor, the part 1 of the finale? Who do you blame the most for this potential debacle that is coming before us?
Are you about to cough out Barb?
I was not going to cough out Barb. I mean, it might be Barb's fault. It's probably mostly Peter's fault, though, so I can't jump too much on Barb. But anyway, if you did enjoy this video, give us a like, subscribe, and you can support us further by checking that link in the description to the store, and we'll see you here next time.